So thanks again for agreeing to this interview. My first question for you is, you talked a lot in your talk about the relationship between academia and industry. And what I'd like to know as a medical researcher is, how can we as researchers augment the work that's being done by your company? How can we not only work together, but help make each other better?
Yeah, I think the best way to do that is to create a two-way street. I think a lot of times when you look at how academia and industry work together today, it tends to be a one-way street. You guys sit and you do your work, and then when you think you finally have something, you raise your hand and you say, hey, we're here and we have something.
Right.
And then industry or venture money or what have you comes in and tries to figure out how to what angle to play and how to do it. And one of the points I was hoping to try to really make in the speech was, we've got to change that mindset. You guys understand the science, and you have some of the most creative and innovative ideas as researchers. And we as industry have much better insights on reimbursement, on regulatory pathways, and on ultimately patient needs. We spend a lot of money trying to understand that. And so if we could sit at the table a lot earlier instead of later, which is where I think everybody else is trending, I think we can lower the risk profile and lower the failure rate of a lot of these research projects being commercialized.
Right. If we were to solve one problem in eye health that's facing the world today, what would you like it to be?
Well, I think one of the greatest unmet medical needs in eye health is to really understand the biology and the life cycle of the nerve cells of the eye. And I think when you look at things like how the nerve cells respond to trauma or death or any other thing, we really don't have a real good answer to any of those as an industry or as physicians to solve these for patients. And when you look at the major degenerative diseases of the eye, whether it be glaucoma or macular degeneration or retinal vascular disease, they all have this common pathway of stress in the nerve cells. Mm-hmm. And so I think if we can get better insights into the biology and life cycle of these nerve cells, I think that can lead to solving a lot of these unmet medical needs, and not just treatments but cures, which is where I think we need to go to.
Does the issue of eye care change when you look at it from an international perspective as opposed to just in this country?
It does. I think when you look at the advanced medicine societies, the United States, Europe, even parts of Asia, certainly Japan, the unmet medical needs are defined much differently than when you look at developing nations, where access to just basic eye health is almost non-existent. And so I think, depending on where you go and what you're trying to solve for, there's a wide range of I think, priorities for solving some of these unmet medical needs. The shame is in the developing nations. We know how to do it. We have the ability and we have the technology. We need the governments, and we need the regulatory pathways, and we need the funding to be able to do some of the basic eye care.
One of the problems that we've identified at the Fox Center is patient compliance. In particular, I'm working on a project that deals with glaucoma medication and the low rates of compliance that patients have. Do you feel that this is something that you've had to deal with as well with your company? And are there any steps that we can take to try and remedy this?
It's a huge issue, and a lot of diseases like glaucoma, right, which are chronic diseases that require medication every day. For example, compliance is just a tremendous issue, and the way we deliver most eye medicines today is through a drop or pulse dosing, right? And in terms of really understanding what gets in the eye and how much dosing gets in the eye and whether they make it in the eye to begin with,
right.
All of these things I think need to be solved. And there's some wonderful technologies being developed on how to deliver the drug more effectively to the eye. But at the end of the day, we need to continue to educate patients on compliance. And a good analogy is heart disease. I used to be the chairman of the American Heart Association. We have solved 99% of heart disease. Mm-hmm. Yet the average prescription for a statin is something like 280 days. And the reality is, if you're on a statin, you're probably on it for the rest of your life. And people just, it's human nature not to want to take chronic medicines, and that's something doctors and industry have to continue to fight the fight and make it easier and provide education and tools to alleviate.
Where do you see your company in the field of eye care heading in the next 5 to 10 years, particularly with regards to this idea of regenerative ophthalmology?
Yeah. So our goal at Bausch Lomb is to not be the biggest eye health company, but to be the best. And so our hope is to really have the singular focus on eye health. There really are no other dedicated eye health companies left. The big eye health companies are all now divisions of very large pharmaceutical companies. So we believe we have a very unique opportunity with our sole focus on eye health to do unique things. And so when you think about regenerative medicine, partnering with a Fox Center, for example, is just, I think, a huge opportunity. And we've got to find ways to do that that make sense, that are compliant, that are done with high integrity, but ultimately lead to solutions for patients. And that was the challenge that I think we should continue to discuss and that I raised today.
So my last question, you bring up issues like compliance and things that we in the academic field know very little about. You yourself have an MBA. So my question is, as someone with a PhD, what can I learn from the business world, and what can you learn from the academic world?
Look, I think there's a great connection between the two. And the more we work together, the more we will learn from each other. And I think that's why I'm saying, if we can, going back to my first question, if you think about how we work with each other today, there's so much more we can learn from each other if we got involved with each other's work earlier in the process. We could teach you a lot more about how drugs get to market, or how devices get to market, or how you can change a surgical technique based on a new laser or whatever it may be. And you can teach us a lot about the science of the eye, the advancements of regenerative medicine, and some areas that just don't get a lot of publicity. So, again, I think there's no shortage of things we can learn from each other.
Mm-hmm.
I think the thing that we have to focus on is how we actually work together, because once we get that connection, I think those things will come naturally.